Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing today? It is about 5 o'clock, heading to my afternoon class, my math class, which is always fun. It's finally cool enough to take the bike and not be a disgusting sweaty mess by the time I get there. So like everyone else, I've seen that video in New York City, with the Land Rover running over a whole group of bikers. And you know, as a biker at first, I had the same reaction that I think a lot of people had, which was, you know, against the guy driving the truck. You know, typical SUV owner, you know, I own an SUV, but, you know, typical SUV owner, and he's driving a Land Rover, and, you know, he just blatantly, I mean, just not even an accident, just clearly mows down a bunch of guys on bikes. But you know, the more I see that video and watch it a few times over, and the more I hear about what was going on and watch some of the other videos from those bikers, the more I can't help but feel that, you know, I think both parties were in the wrong, not just one. You know, it wasn't just the guy in the truck, and it wasn't just the guys on the bike. I mean, you know, it definitely looked like both parties were making choices that were less than intelligent. You know, on one hand, you got the bikers that were blocking up the whole freeway, which, you know, I understand, they're in a big ride. I've gone in big group rides before. You know, poker runs and Toys for Tots and stuff like that. I mean, those big runs, you get a lot of bikes together. But at the same time, you know, you don't block every single lane. You leave a lane open. You let people travel, especially if you're going slow and rolling down the freeway like those guys were. You know, it's just bad form. But, you know, I understand where they're coming from. You want to ride. You don't want to be hassled with worrying about cars coming up around you. You know, I definitely understand that aspect of it. But at the same time, you know, you got a guy in a car or in his truck who made a not bright choice either. I mean, you see all these bikes rolling slow and pulling stunts and stuff like that. And instead of getting into the middle of them, which is, I think, what set the one guy off. You know, the one guy brake checked him, and that's when he bumped the guy on the first bike. And then they surrounded his car and started threatening him and were trying to open his doors and stuff. And that's when he panicked, you know, and drove over everyone to get away. And I mean, you know, the guy's got his wife and his little kid in the car. And, you know, on one hand, it's not Beirut. This isn't Colombia. You know, New York City is not a war-torn African nation. It's New York City, so the likelihood of him getting pulled out and beaten to death were small. But still, I mean, I think he had every right to be scared. I think most of us in that situation would be a little freaked out and unhappy with what was going on. I know I would have been. You know, to the point of running over a bunch of people, I don't think so. I think that's a little extreme. Especially if you consider, had he hung back and just rolled slow or taken the next exit and taken some surface streets and just avoided a whole mess of bikers, you know, he would have never gotten that situation. But again, he has every right to use that public street just as much as the bikes do. And, you know, and as much as us bikers bitch about cars for not giving us right away and not paying attention, you know, what they did wasn't right. So you've got two parties that have both made bad choices and then escalated it. You know, one escalated it out of fear, You know, and could he have sat there and locked his doors and just, you know, called the cops at that point instead of running over the bikers? Yes. Would that have been the most prudent choice? Absolutely. I mean, you know, until they start smashing windows in like they do at the end of the video, or the artificial end of the video, drama, but until they start smashing windows in, you know, you do everything you can to avoid as much conflict as possible. You know, I would have said I'm calling the cops, left your windows up, and made a phone call, you know, and it would have never escalated as far as it did. But, you know, he made his bad decisions. The bikers made their bad decisions. I mean, chasing him was what anyone would do. He ran over a bunch of people and then continued to run. So I think following him and getting his license plate was good. But at the next stoplight, or when he got caught up in traffic, busting in his windows, trying to open his door, busting in the window next to his kid, you know, now we're back into making really stupid choices again. So I mean, that's what it all comes down to. I think it all comes down to a lot of ego and a lot of people willing to make, well, maybe not willing, but a lot of people making bad choices. So the whole thing's a mess. You know, thankfully nobody got seriously injured, you know, cuts and scrapes. None of the bikers got hurt. You know, there's rumors that bikers died, but those were not true, thankfully. But still, a whole situation could have been avoided. And unfortunately now it puts bikers in a bad light. You know, it makes people nervous around bikers when they have no reason to be. I mean, the majority of bikers are wonderful people. You know, sure, there's the rare 1% group out there, but they are rare. So anyways, here I am at community college. Woohoo! It's a good school though. I like it. I like it a lot. It's a really nice campus too. Nothing you can complain about. So yeah, that's about it, guys. You know, what are your feelings on the video? Especially from fellow riders. I think they're gonna have the best opinion. Other than that, hope everyone has a good night, and I will enjoy my class.